Welcome back to Court Vision, back to our kind of regular scheduled program here. As we've been talking some college basketball. Hey, if you're still watching the tournament, tonight is the Sweet 16, the day we're recording this. Go check out our original bracket prediction and then talking about the Sweet 16 as well. But we're back talking NBAs. We got about 10 games left in this regular season. I'm Luke Backman here with my co-host Vincent Zakian. Hey, make sure you subscribe to Backman Sports, subscribe to Vincent Zakian's channel, Vincent Zakian as well. Comment below who you think's going to make the playoff push. I mean, it's time now for the playoffs. Let us know your favorite this NBA season. And, of course, like this video. Vincent, 10 games left. Feels like, obviously, we've been talking a lot of college basketball. NBA, we're going to get into a lot here. But before we start, I mean, overall take, how are you feeling as this NBA regular season wraps up? I know you said before we hit record, kind of like a weird type of season, just a weird vibe around it. Just how have you felt now as the regular season comes to a close?
I'm ready for the playoffs, definitely, especially having experienced the intensity of March Madness and single elimination and all that, and all the conference tournaments and that kind of thing. I'm ready for the playoffs to start. We're through most teams 72 games right now, and that's kind of been a proposed number to scale the season back to, and it feels like it totally feels like it should be that way right now, because I don't know what there's left to play for. You know what I mean? But there were still incredible games last night, and there's still teams kind of vying for position, teams trying to get right as they go into the playoffs, and then once the playoffs start, it's gonna
Right,
be
yeah, I'm 100% with you. Playoffs, when the playoffs come around, it's great basketball to watch. But these, I mean, there's some nights where there's incredible games, and a lot of other nights where there's double-digit leads, and sometimes by 20. So yeah, it's sometimes a tough watch. But we want to talk about those. We want to talk about those top teams. Excuse me. As we look at the last 10 games of the season upcoming, I mean, both conferences, it seems like the Western Conference is more, we know where everybody's going, we know where people are going to stand. Obviously, the Lakers have made a surge as of late, but the Thunder, the Spurs, top two teams. Spurs only 2 games back to the Thunder, but I think we both assume the Thunder hold on to that one spot. And then, of course, the Eastern Conference, I mean, Detroit has a 4-game lead, but then after that, it's Celtics, Knicks, Cavaliers, Hawks all the way up to 5, Raptors, Sixers, Heat. It's a bloodbath in the East. Excuse me. Vincent, do you want to start Western Conference or Eastern Conference looking at these top teams?
Let's start Eastern Conference. I think that's a little more.
100%. Let's do it. Pistons, like I mentioned, they have the 4-game lead for the number 1 spot. It looks like that's gonna hold tight. Obviously, the big news from Detroit was Cade Cunningham's injury. They've played well without him. Yeah. They lost last night to the Hawks, but other than that, they've played well. They've managed to play solid without him. For Detroit, we could talk about it here for a second. We assume from the reports that Cade will be back for that first round series. I mean, we don't know who would they play because they have the play-in, so we'd have to see who that 8 seed would be if they hold on to the number 1 spot. But we've talked about Detroit. We both don't think it's Detroit coming out of the East, but how do you like Detroit's chances with a Cade Cunningham coming back in playoff intensity basketball with a collapsed lung, coming off of a collapsed lung?
I think they'll be fine. I think they'll get this 1 seed. I think they'll beat whoever they face in the first round handedly, even if Cade's coming back limited, that kind of thing, even if they're working him back. Mainly because the bottom of the Eastern Conference hasn't been exactly impressive right now. I think, the Heat are kind of capable of anything if they can get onto that last seed. The Magic are in free fall. The Hornets have been a really exciting watch, but they're not ready yet to compete with Detroit. So I wouldn't panic if I was a Detroit fan, especially they have looked fine without him. They've treaded water. They played a really great game against Atlanta last night. Again, Atlanta's surging. By the way, sneaky, this is what we thought Atlanta was going to be at the beginning of the season. Shout out to us.
Absolutely, and I was listening to the pregame show for the Atlanta-Detroit and Detroit game, and I think it was Malika Andrews. She said something, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Windhorst or Michael Malone. But they said something of the nature that, hey, man, this Atlanta team's looked good for a team that, wasn't trying to win games this season. And I thought to myself, I was like, I don't think that was Atlanta's outlook. Everybody thought Atlanta would be a potential top 4, top 5 team in the East. And, I mean, This is kind of what we expected, not them to go 14 out of 15 or 16, whatever they've gone this streak, but a little more consistency with or without Trae Young. We expected Atlanta to be a player in the Eastern Conference, which they have. So that's been interesting to see, and obviously they've been scorching hot as of recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like I give them a lot of credit, but also if you're in the Eastern Conference and you're a playoff or play-in team and you're not going on a little bit of a run right now, it is a kind of a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, once you get below the 10th seed, there's a 9-game gap
Yeah.
between Milwaukee and Orlando, who, by the way, is having a disaster of a season, who is almost guaranteed to fire Jamal Mosley and probably shake up the roster in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, after that, Bucks, Bulls, Wizards, Nets, Pacers, all in full tank mode for what we have discussed, an awesome upcoming draft.
Yeah. It's like I know the Knicks right now won 7 straight games, and it's all against the bottom feeders in the East and some of the Western
Yeah.
Conference as well. But I mean, at the top of this Eastern Conference, it's like you can't even make any movement. For the longest time, Atlanta, I think they won 9 straight games, and they had made no movement from the 9 seed. And now they've made a little bit of movement, obviously, up to the 5 seed. But feels like that top half of the Eastern Conference winning streak, winning ways, bottom half they're the punching bag at the moment. Let's talk about the next few teams in the standings. Those are 3 teams we've had our eyes on, and we look at probably the favorites. Maybe not Cleveland over Detroit, but Detroit right there with Cleveland and the others. But Boston, number 2 at the moment, half a game up on New York. The Knicks, number 3, and then Cleveland, number 4. How do you like their situation heading into these last 10 games?
Yeah, I think Boston and New York are just going to be vying for that 2 seed, and that's kind of really the only major battle going on because New York's got 3 games on Cleveland. It's going to be tough to make that gap up in the next 2 weeks. And I think they're both in really good spots right now. The Knicks are playing great. The Celtics just got a win over the Thunder last night, who beat everybody, no matter who's out there for them. And the Celtics, I mean, they're consistent. I'm just always wowed by their player development, really. Like Jaylen Brown's the headliner of that. Jaylen Brown, he just keeps breaking through his ceiling. But also, like Pritchard and like Shireman, and I mean, they're big men. Like it's really impressive what they've been able to do with like a roster that doesn't have the names of these past Celtics teams. They have Porzingis, Drew Holiday, and that kind of thing. They're a contender right now, and probably more of a contender than like Detroit with Cade coming back, and you worry about them. It feels like in the Eastern Conference, it's Boston and New York, and kind of Cleveland and Detroit after that. I think.
I absolutely. It's funny with Boston. Tatum has not been great, and to his defense, like I never thought Tatum coming back in these high intensity minutes leading up. I mean, they're going to be chasing them and the Knicks back and forth, like you said, for that 2 seed. He's going to be playing high intensity games, all these different situations, coming off an Achilles tear. He hasn't been great, but Boston doesn't need, I don't think, Jason Tatum to be great right now. At least right now. Jaylen Brown has been phenomenal all throughout the year. I think that 2 seed is going to be huge. Obviously, it'll be most likely Knicks or Boston and New York for that 2-3, which would mean a second-round matchup similar to last year, how that panned out. That home court advantage is going to be huge. It's going to be huge, and these 2 teams meet on April 3rd, so a little over a week away now. So that game is going to be, circled on both calendars. As we look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell's been in and out of the lineup. He's had some issues with an eye injury. James Harden's been fine. Again, this is a Cleveland team that seems like they pushed all the chips in, saying this is how we're going to go for it. I don't think either of us have looked at them and said, you know what, we're changing our pick to Cleveland, even though I know some betting services did. They put Cleveland as the odds-on favorite in the East. Your outlook on Cleveland, a lot of people say if it stays this way, Pistons 1 and Cleveland 4, and they both get through the first round, if they meet in the second round, a lot of people have chosen Cleveland to upset Detroit, and I'm not mad about that. What about you? What do you think about that potential matchup?
Yeah, I understand that. If Cade's healthy, I think I'd still take Detroit in that scenario. But yeah, you can't fall for the Harden honeymoon, man. It happens every other year.
You called it immediately.
Yeah, it happens every other year. They'll still be good. They should still beat what's probably going to be Atlanta in that first round series. But after that, yeah, I think the 3 teams ahead of them have built themselves a little smarter and a little better. They played some really good games, and they played a lot of good teams since Harden came in. But yeah, I don't think they're conference finalists right now, really.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like if Cade, I heard some not rumors, but some projections were okay. Maybe if it takes a little longer, he'd come back in the second round. He'd miss the first round. If that was the case, I might lean Cleveland if he has to come back his first games in the second round. But I'd still favor Detroit. But Cleveland's interesting. A very interesting team. Any other teams in the Eastern Conference you want to talk about, look at before we switch over to the Western Conference, Vincent?
That could, real quick on Cleveland, that could also be an interesting thing where maybe they don't want to push for the second or third seed so that they can get Detroit in the. I mean, we've seen that happen before. The Sixers got Embiid and PG back last night, and they actually both played amazing. Embiid dropped like 35 on 17 shots, like vintage Embiid game. We could be interesting, like if we get Boston in the first round or something, like it could be very interesting. The Sixers have been able to like tread water though with like process era lineups, like it's incredible. Like because obviously Maxi's hurt, it's just been like Edgecombe and like some guys on two ways and like backups and that kind of thing. So having George back and Paul George, he's been practicing this whole time while he's been suspended, so he really didn't miss a beat coming in last night. The Sixers will be an interesting watch when the playoffs come around. I really have like zero expectations for them as far as honestly winning a series against Boston or New York, but they could be interesting. And Toronto is also just kind of there, and they're competing with the Sixers also for the sixth seed. I don't even know how to feel about Toronto, to be honest.
Toronto's such a funny team because they were at the 3 seed for a while, like not too long ago. They were the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. I don't know. As a Knicks fan, we haven't lost to Toronto in 3 years. I mean, knock on wood, if that series ends up happening. But like, it feels like Toronto's one of those fun teams with some young guys: Brandon Ingram, R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley. That's just like you don't take serious. Like I got to see it to believe it. And right now, I've never seen it with Toronto. They're just a fun team in the East that it's like, okay, whoever they get matched up, if it is Knicks and Toronto 3-6 matchup, I favor the Knicks obviously in that one. Let's switch over to the Western Conference though. Thunder, obviously, we mentioned, lost to the Boston Celtics last night. Still 57-16 on the year, 2 games up on the Spurs. Do you look at Thunder Spurs staying put at 1 and 2 in the West?
Yeah, I think so. The Thunder, they've just been the 2 best teams in the league this year, pretty clearly. The Thunder, I mean, they've had like injuries this year, a lot of injuries, and they've still been totally fine. And Shea's kind of cruised to this MVP, I think. But yeah, I think the Spurs are the team that can give them the most trouble in the entire league, and I think that we're destined to see them in a conference finals that'll really kind of be an NBA finals, I think. But I think it'll stay 1 and 2 right now because the Thunder kind of just do what they have to do all the time.
Right, and then it's like. Then you look at the rest of the Western Conference, specifically 3, 4, 5, 6. Lakers, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Rockets. I mean, I'll just talk about this because Timberwolves and Rockets played last night. The Rockets are maybe the least clutch team I've ever seen in my life. And it's like they had a 13-point lead with 2 minutes to go or 2:50 to go in overtime. And Minnesota goes on a 15-0 run to steal the win back. And that's been the case for the Rockets the entire season. Their clutch time, like we looked at them adding Kevin Durant, is okay, they got a guy in the clutch they can go to. And it's just been
horrendous. Got blocked by Rudy last night.
It's been horrendous. Like I remember the Knicks came back to beat them in the fourth quarter. There's plenty. They're the worst clutch team in the league. While you look at the Lakers, number 3, I think metrics at least a week and a half ago, where the Lakers were the best team in the clutch.
Yeah.
They lost to the Magic, and that was the first time they've lost in a clutch game this season or something of that nature. Lakers are, what are they, 9-1 in their last 10. It seems like the Luka, AR-15, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James mix is kind of fallen into place. Let's start with the Lakers. Do you think they're a real contender? Obviously, they are a game and a half up on the Nuggets. Do you have the Nuggets still over the Lakers? Are the Lakers creeping up to that same tier? How are you looking this Western Conference?
I think the urgency of the playoffs will make it so that I would have the Nuggets above them. Championship pedigree. Jokic still arguably the best player in the league. You can kind of make that argument now. But I love where the Lakers are. I think the 3 seed is important for the Lakers because I think they need to duck the Timberwolves, and I think they can get rid of Houston in 6 or less games because I think Houston's just kind of like mental free fall right now, and the Lakers are feeling their absolute best.
Hmm.
And I mean, we have to keep in mind it's been a little while since we saw it. Luka Doncic is the premier playoff riser
Yeah.
in the association. And he has, again, we talked about it at the beginning of the season. He's carried worse teams. Like he has, it's hard to get on with like how much of the ball Luka demands and how little defense he plays and how much he argues with the refs. I get all that. The results are kind of undeniable in how they translate into wins and how he gets good shots for his teammates.
Hmm.
So if you're a Lakers fan, that's kind of what you're telling yourself. Get the highest seed possible. Like hold on to that 3 seed for dear life. Don't let Denver catch you, and then you can make a real run after that, I think.
Yeah. It's funny because we're going to talk about the MVPs, and you mentioned we'll bring up the Ringer 100 and kind of the rankings they have of the NBA players. But Luka, this past month, it feels like, and obviously there's been some news off the court that people joke around and say fueled his fire. But ever since that news kind of dropped, like eyes were on Luka, and since then he hasn't disappointed. He's at 50-point games, 60-point games,
60. Yeah.
Like he's been phenomenal this entire time, and people are like, okay. Like, this is the Luka that every year we come in and we hear people picking Luka for MVP. It's like, this is the Luka that they're saying could be an MVP. It's just he hasn't always had that consistency, maybe via injury that, derails a season as well. But if he could have a consistency of, like, the way he's been playing this past month for a season, it's like he, by far, is a top 3 MVP candidate, probably would win an MVP award. But it's good to see for the Lakers that they have this version of Luka getting hot. LeBron's feeling like he's taking a back seat to Austin Reeves being the number 2 guy on that team, at the moment at least. So it'll be interesting. I think you make a great point. For the Lakers to get the Rockets, I'm picking the Lakers. I'll probably pick a lot of teams over the Rockets right now in the first round.
Yeah.
It's just...
I might take the Clippers over him, to be honest. Like the way Kawhi is playing right now, I definitely consider it.
And I thought I saw a report, I think it was a week ago, like they asked Western Conference GMs or anonymously, and they're like, we don't look at the Rockets as a threat at all. Like it's just like, and it's hard to. Again, this is a team, it just feels so unserious kind of from the KD files of the All-Star break to just not being able to win clutch games. This team really hasn't been able to put it together all season. We thought, hey, could they get a point guard at the deadline? They stayed pat. They didn't do anything. So we'll have to see. Minnesota staying afloat without Anthony Edwards. Edwards has been out. Seems like he's on track to recovery and being back soon. Ayo Dosunmu, he's been phenomenal for them in the meantime.
Yeah.
You've always been higher on the Timberwolves than I have, and that's not saying, I'm against the Timberwolves. I just think the top of the West, the Timberwolves aren't up to par with them yet. What's your outlook? How do you feel about the Timberwolves?
I don't feel as good about them as I used to, I gotta say. I think the Nuggets are playing a little better now, and obviously the Lakers are playing a lot better. Again, it's hard to get out of my head how brutally they beat LA last year. But look, that's when Luka was kind of still getting his feet under him as a Los Angeles Laker. And yeah, they put in a really good effort against Houston last night, and I still feel like, Anthony Edwards in a playoff series, you're going to feel good about that, but also everyone has a guy in the Western Conference who you're like, okay, just having that guy alone is going to win you a series. And it's kind of an elementary talking point, but like Shea, Wemby, Luka, Jokic, and then Ant. Yeah. And I think you'd rather have all those guys than Ant, even though Ant's an unbelievable player who has had such awesome playoff moments. So as much as I'm still like holding on to my Minnesota stock, it's hard to have them over those top 4 teams right now. Yeah,
it just feels, again, we said it before the season started, they really haven't done they didn't do anything in the offseason to improve. They lost Neil Alexander-Walker, who's been phenomenal in Atlanta. It looks like he's going to win 6th Man of the Year, or he's one of the betting favorites. I think over this stretch, when I was listening to the pregame show, they mentioned he's shooting 60% from 3 at this when they're the 14 out of 16. So he's been great, and they lost him, and it just always felt like they're another piece away. And so Minnesota was a fun watch, but I'm with you. I don't know if they're up to the par of the other teams. Let's go to the Ringer 100. You mentioned this beforehand. We'll kind of, use this to get into MVP talk, as that's wrapping up the regular season, obviously, and voting is going to be coming to a conclusion soon. You mentioned the Ringer 100. Some standout players over, like Excuse me, couldn't talk there. What's your takeaway? Any standouts that you want to mention?
Well, I think the biggest one was that Jokic has been their number one guy for about 3 years,
Hmm.
and it is now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which I guess I can get on board with. I would struggle to do it simply because of circumstance. The Jokic has been injured this year, but also it's just like a super team. The Thunder have put together, and so it's like Shea's unbelievable. He is a top two, top three player in the league for me, I think totally, and he's pretty much undeniable at this point. But his circumstance is so good, and right now him and Jokic have similar resumes, but Jokic pretty consistently for me in a worse situation. So I don't know. What's your take? Would you rather have Shea or Jokic right now?
Right now, just from the body of work I've seen through his whole career, like Jokic, like I just feel more
Yeah.
comfortable with Jokic. And that how big I say that, and Shea's broken the 20 games or how many games in a row with 20 points. Like talk about consistency right there
Yeah.
from SGA. I don't know. I've seen Jokic break so many teams' hearts in the playoffs.
Mm.
Like, just, I mean, you look at the matchup against the Lakers when Anthony Davis couldn't do anything against Jokic, and Jokic just pulling 40-foot, step back there off one leg, fadeaway threes. And what he can do, assisting and rebounding. And again, I'm saying this, and Shea's right there neck and neck with him.
Yeah.
But personally, I'm with you right there. I mean, Shea's got a great team around him, a great organization where it feels like it's been the next man up the entire season, and they haven't missed a stride. Like we can plug this guy in, and he fits perfectly with our system. Mark Daigneault, he's done a heck of a job in Oklahoma City with that team and helping construct it with Sam Presti. Where it's like, hey, it doesn't matter who's on the court. We got Shea, and we got others. Even if the others aren't up to par with the J Dub or any of these other stars, Chet Holmgren, if they're out,
Yeah.
they can still step in and know their roles. With Denver, it feels like, man, this entire season has been, are we going to get our five that we want our five to be on the court at the same time? And with that, yes, they're the 4 seed. And yes, they're still, playing catch up in the Western Conference. Jokic is still having a monster year. I mean, they're still right there with the 3 seed behind the Lakers. And they're a tough matchup against anybody. If, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Cam Johnson, all these guys, Christian Brown, are all healthy. So I see where they put SGA over Jokic. And part of it may be because Jokic has also been injured for a good amount of time this year.
Yeah.
But if you put it like a gun to my head and said you can pick one, I don't know. I feel a little more confident with Jokic, maybe because I've just seen it more. And I know Shea won a title last year, and they're both got one title each. I've seen Jokic do things on the basketball court I don't think I've ever seen a center do. And it's
Yeah.
just like I can't get that out of my head. But maybe this season, I can't be too mad if people are saying SGA is the better player than Jokic. So it's neck and neck. Personally, I'd go Jokic, but I can't be mad at anyone who picks SGA there.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the Thunder, they just keep adding and also developing incredible players. I mean, they literally go like 11 players deep on their roster, and
Yep.
they're gonna have to cut it. I don't know how they're gonna cut it to like 9 dudes in the playoffs. And granted, they might not have to do that for the first couple of rounds, but like they're gonna have to have a solid group of guys with good chemistry out there when they play like the Spurs
Yep.
or maybe the Nuggets. Yeah, as much as I think the Nuggets roster's improving, it's the reason I like them so much going into the season. Peyton Watson's really like improved, and Hardaway's been really good for them this year. It still feels like if the Nuggets are going to go all the way, it's going to be Jokic is getting a triple double every play, a 30-point triple double every game, every playoff game, and Murray's going to have a couple 40, 50-point games en route to a championship. And that's, despite it all, that is what the recipe has been since the bubble, when Murray was having those unbelievable scoring in that series against like Donovan Mitchell with the Jazz. That's a series I just love to bring up all the time. That was like peak.
Oh, it's a classic. Every time I see like a montage of them going back and forth, like I will sit down and watch the full thing. It's incredible.
That was one of the greats, and it's so funny to think of like where those guys have all gone since then. But it still feels like the same thing for the Nuggets. And to be honest, I wouldn't count them out for being able to piece together a really strong title run. If they can have a solid group out there, I still think Jokic is the best bet. Elsewhere on this Ringer 100, Wemby's 3, Luka's 4, which I thought
Okay.
probably wasn't the case a couple weeks. They redo it like every month or couple
Okay.
months. So I think Luka's really worked his way back up, which I think is
Hmm.
fair because I thought everyone was kind of overreacting, like post Super Bowl, like during the All Star break, everyone was like
Uh-huh.
really out on Luka. Um, I think people are back in rightfully. Kawhi is 5th on this list.
Okay.
He's been unbelievable this year,
He's been
obviously.
like he's been a robot. He's been like a robot killer. Just I mean, feels like he's put this Clippers team along with the pieces they have around him. Obviously, after the James Harden
Yeah,
trade, Darius Garland's had some nice games. Benedict Mathurin has played well. That
yeah.
was the Zubac trade to Indiana.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not mad at that. I mean, Kawhi's been phenomenal. He's been really good this season. I mean, obviously it hasn't gone the way the Clippers have wanted. They're in the 8th seed right now, so they're gonna have a chance at the play-in and
Yeah,
then a top seed in the Western Conference. But I'm not mad at Kawhi at number 5.
yeah. They're gonna, I think, get that 7th seed. They'll probably end the season as the 8th seed, but I think they'll beat Phoenix in the play-in.
I agree.
Dylan Brooks-less Phoenix Suns. One
Hmm.
game against Kawhi. You love Kawhi in that spot. Um,
Absolutely.
Jalen Brown over Jalen Brunson on this list. I think they were like 7 and 8.
I'm not mad. You know, Jalen Brown's had a phenomenal year. I
Yeah,
mean, Brunson has had, and I'll say this as a Knicks fan, Brunson has had his streaky 15 games throughout the season. He looks incredible for 15. I'm not saying this is 15 every 15, but he's had his streaks throughout the year where he looks great. Then he has a shooting slump, and then it's like and then he looks great again. And so I think also a part of Brunson this season is at least in the second half of the season after they went 2-9 in that 11-game stretch, is trying to figure out, okay, it doesn't have to be all of me. Let's get my teammates involved. And I think that everything's coming into form now for the Knicks, but I'm not mad with Brown being over Brunson at all. Brown's been great for the Celtics and has the Celtics where they are right now at the 2 seed.
yeah. Both 29 years old. Were they in the same draft class? I think Brunson was like a year later. He was at Nova for a while. I'm tripping. Um, they were 11 and 12 on the
Yeah.
list. Excuse me. Because Cade is 8, Donovan's 9, Giannis 7. Okay,
See, I might have a problem with that.
that's what I was gonna bring to you. Donovan and Cade being the preeminent guards in the Eastern Conference. Not feeling it.
Cade for this season, you know what? Yeah,
Yeah,
Cade's been great. Cade, I mean, Detroit's number 1 in the East by 4 games. I can't argue with that. Donovan Mitchell, though, I know he put like the Mitchell love
mm,
from like the entire media sometimes drives me a little crazy because I've always been a guy that Mitchell's a great player. I like Donovan Mitchell. When he was with the Jazz, I'd root for the Jazz in the Western Conference all the time. And yes, he puts up good numbers, but his teams are regularly not regularly, but like they're right there in the middle, and then second round they get
yeah,
disappointed. I know it's a regular season; they're just looking at it right now, but I mean the Cavaliers aren't number 1. Like if they were the number 1 seed last year, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, if he's a top guard in the East, but I think I'd be a lot angrier if I was a Celtics fan with Brown being over or Mitchell being over Brunson. It's always been, for some reason, this has always been the case that people look at Mitchell better than Brunson. It's like it doesn't matter how many times Brunson's beaten Mitchell head to head in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. His stats are better than Donovan Mitchell's. It doesn't matter anything. People always look at Mitchell, and maybe he's because he's the more explosive
exactly.
guard,
Yeah,
can get the shot off. Like he's a funner for many people. He's maybe more of a fun watch than Jalen Brunson is. It doesn't matter. So I've grown numb to Mitchell being over Brunson, but I think Mitchell being over Brown is that's just wrong. I think.
yeah. It's just because the game is more aesthetically pleasing, I think, with Donovan than like
Hmm.
Brunson. Like, I mean, I'm every day I'm appalled at how, in a good way, at how Brunson has turned himself into a scoring machine while being like a whatever
Hmm.
6'1" guard who plays with his back to the basket half the time. Like, it
Yeah.
is incredible, and I think the results are undeniable when it comes to
Hmm.
Brunson. I think he belongs in that upper echelon, and but Donovan Mitchell, like we can't overlook it. Like as disappointing as the playoff runs have been sometimes, his presence is a guarantee that you're going to be there.
Yeah.
So I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he's performed himself. I mean, they lost to Indiana last year, and he was dropping 40 points every
right.
game, it felt like. I will say, though, but like, I don't know the reasoning. I don't know if they had any reasoning for it. But if they're going Donovan Mitchell that high because, okay, he had to kind of carry a Cavaliers team that's been kind of middle of the
Yeah,
pack. All right, Jalen Brown has been carrying a Celtics team to the 2 seed that we thought was going to tank for the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So if that was their theory or their reasoning for Mitchell that high, then I'd combat it with, hey, Jaylen Brown's been doing the same thing even better this season, or at least his team is in a better position. But yeah, I don't know. Donovan Mitchell, he shows up in the moments, but I don't know. Maybe that's just some beef I have with Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
But I'd have Jaylen Brown over him for sure.
Steph Curry came in at number 10. You think Steph's still top 10? This is ahead of Brown, ahead of Brunson, ahead of Durant, ahead of Maxey, and Booker.
So would that mean? I'm trying to think. They have Shea ahead of them. I'm trying to think of the point guards. Cade ahead of them for sure.
And
are those the only 2 point guards?
and
or am I missing
Luka,
one?
if you just want to count like guys who have the ball in their hands.
I'm gonna count.
And then
I'll count
and
I'm not
and
counting
Mitchell
Luka
too.
for point
Mitchell's
guard.
one ahead of him.
All right, so you're saying that he's around the 5th best point guard in the league, or around 5th to 6th best guard in the league.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
I just want to
Availability. I mean, you got to be available too. That's part. I mean,
You do.
and I know that's that's a hard knock on something, but like Steph's been out for a long time. Granted, when he's around, he's great. I don't know if I'd have him in the 10th best player in the league right now.
I think if you put him on a decent team right now, it'd be awesome. And one thing I really want aside from the Sixers to make a conference finals is I want to see Steph on a good team one more time. And I don't think he'll leave the Warriors, so that kind of rules it out because I think the Warriors are dead. But I'd like to see it because that would kind of prove it that he's still that kind of player. Maxey's 14th on this list, which kind of like woke me up to the fact that we're kind of in a new NBA right now. The fact that Maxey was that high up, and I totally agree with it. I think he's been that level of good this year. Those were kind of the main notes. Jalen Johnson's obviously skyrocketed up the list. He's like 17th. Yep. And yeah, that was kind of it for that. But also Bam Adebayo, 22nd. I feel like got a bit of a bump from the big game. But yeah, those were my big takeaways from the Ring 100. Also, I think Paolo Banchero was like borderline top 10 to start the season. He is 25th.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it when we were talking about Eastern Conference teams. I mean, the Magic, what a disaster of a year. They're 10th right now in the Eastern Conference. Like, what a disaster of a year it's become for Orlando. Orlando team, I think we both had. I think I had 4, you had 3, or maybe it was flipped. I know we both had top 4, right? Yeah. I mean, I was right up there. I think we both had Atlanta as a top 4 team, and before 2 weeks ago, they looked nothing like that as well. Eastern Conference just has been weird this year. It's been unfortunate to see Paolo just have a bad year.
It seems like him.
I will say, the nickname PB No J is one of the funniest, or the Twitter slander, not even nickname, just slander name. It's whoever came up with that, they were cooking with that
him
one.
and Franz just can't seem to figure it out. And actually, like Desmond Bane's had an awesome year for them. Traded all those picks for him. It's just been a weird year in the league. It's hard to I've gone up and down the standings. Excuse me, and it's hard to gauge like who's actually good and who we've actually gotten a good read on this year. Like I'm kind of going off of. I mean, I know Detroit belongs. OKC belongs. San Antonio belongs. Then you look at the good teams, and it's like Boston, they've had their best player out for the entire year, so we don't really know what to get out of them. Cleveland, made the James Harden trade. The Lakers have been, weird, but now they're moving up the standings. We don't know what LeBron's role is going to be. The Nuggets have had injuries. The Timberwolves have had injuries. The Rockets have been, disappointing, but also lost their point guard to start the season, and a guy who's, a big clutch scorer for them. It's been, with so many mysteries, it feels, bad for the league, but I think it also means the regular season feels like kind of a disaster right now. But that kind of means we're going to be finding out so much new information when the playoffs start and when guys really start to separate that I think it's going to make it even better, weirdly enough.
Definitely. I think, I'm scared for the NBA for this to happen because obviously their PR, it feels like the NBA's PR right now is just, it's plummeting because you look, I mean, again, Twitter is just an imaginary place online where anybody can voice their opinion. But I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at ratings, like Major League Baseball right now is like when you look at their PR, it's skyrocketing between the World Series last year, the WBC, the ratings from both of those skyrocketing, and the NBA just feels like it's going the other way, and it feels like people have more problems than solutions in the NBA, or like there's a lot more complaints than there is compliments. There's just people, whether it be the tanking, whether it be just like uninspiring basketball that's being played. It just feels like the NBA, and I think in this first round of the playoffs, I think we're going to see a few stinkers of a series, especially those high seeds. And you know, hopefully it saves. Like the Knicks play a great first round series every year, like against Philly, against oh my gosh, who was it last year? Detroit last year. Like there's always a good two good first round series, but then I feel like this year, I don't know, there might just be some stinkers across the board, and then hopefully like a March Madness when people say, hey, if Cinderellas aren't there, you know, then we're gonna have better games down the line. Hopefully that's the case because the NBA needs that. But I don't know. It feels like it's just been awful for the NBA, and now they're looking at expansion, which we can touch on in a second. But they need a good close to this regular season, and then they need a good playoffs.
Yeah, and it's also like this like lack of action is terrible. Like think about. I mean, the MLB has done a great job, like kind of giving themselves a facelift. They've like looked in the mirror and really addressed things. And when you talk about the MLB right now, just in general. The big things you hear about, it's like pitch clock, it's Ohtani, it's the World Baseball Classic, it's like really like this global game, and they have real stars with real personality, you know, Tatis and Soto and that kind of thing. And then if you talk about like what have been the big stories in the NBA this regular season, it's a third of the league is trying to lose, gambling scandals, aspiration scandals, and the commissioner has absolutely stood pat on all of it, which, I mean, and Adam Silver, I used to be an Adam Silver because he is totally the players' commissioner. And right now what he's doing, and maybe it started with like the last CBA, is anti-player. And it's absolutely like concern. I mean, they have just like let this aspiration thing, it's a canary in the coal mine for like that things aren't being run particularly well right now, but it's also like damning that they don't say anything and that they pretend it doesn't exist. And it's kind of the same thing with tanking too. Like every once in a while, a report will just float out there about the NBA is like considering this or considering this. There is no action whatsoever, and I hate to invoke his name. Would this ever happen in David Stern's NBA, Luke? It absolutely wouldn't. And maybe it was better that way, which is a terrifying thought. Even though, like David Stern, not a bad, like a good commissioner, but ruled with an iron fist. And while that may seem anti-American, while that may seem anti-player, I think it undeniably made for a better product. And now the NBA feels like it's this regular season feels like it has been a damning indictment on the leadership in the NBA, and the playoffs need to come in and save it. The players need to save it.
Yeah, and like as a Knicks fan, obviously I've been privileged, as these last few years, to see a team that's winning, right? So I'm excited to watch them winning. And so when people say tanking's ruining the league, it's like, okay, like from my vantage point, it's like, okay, like obviously the Knicks have been awful my entire life up until this run, and it's like, yeah, I wasn't excited to see them. But now it's affecting right now, like I understand where the ratings are down or all these different things because the Knicks, like I mentioned at the start, they're on a 7-game winning streak against teams under 500. Guess what? I'm tuning into a Knicks game if I'm not having a March Madness game, a WBC game to turn on. Like those are the games I'm turning on before I'm turning the Knicks game on. Like there's been plenty of times during this stretch. I think the WBC final, granted that was the championship game, I watched that over the Knicks game. March Madness this past weekend, I was watching March Madness on my TV, and I'd pull the Knicks game up on my phone if it was a close game. But it wasn't because they were winning against tanking teams that were wanting to lose. Like I understand where people are like, it's just not a fun product to watch. It's just you look at it, it's like you walk into a game and yes, it's an NBA team. They can beat anybody on any single night. But you see some of these teams. Last night, I think it was Brooklyn playing Golden State. they got the ball. They inbounded the ball, and their player thought he was getting fouled, but he just like threw the ball down court. He didn't even try and shoot a shot to get fouled. He just like threw it, and everyone's like, "What are we doing here?" And I know Adam Silver said he had a press conference yesterday or the day before that they're going to address tanking with some points before the draft. I got to see it because I feel like we've had this run around the entire season, the entire past couple of years that we're going to stop tanking. What are you going to do? Like, well, what are we going to do? We've actively had players, former and I think even present, come out and say, no, yeah, when your team is bad, you're losing. You're losing on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of stories that have come out, I think it was Jeremy Lin, and he was like, oh, I had like 25 through the first 3 quarters, and I'm getting ready to go back for the 4th. And an assistant coach behind, like, he's like, nah, they said you got to sit. This has been happening in the NBA, and it feels like it's happening at like 10 times the clip this season. So I don't know how they fix it, but it's bad.
Teams have to tank right now, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's the only way to turn your team, like, because free agency and the trade market have been killed by the CBA and by, like, the Rudy Gobert trade.
Yeah.
There is no other way to get good players and keep them on your team. You have to draft well, and so for that reason, you have to tank. It's good to see, like, really competitive, like, stars who care, Wemby, like Ant, like those guys are like they're the future of the league for a reason. It's because they really care about these big games, and they seem to want to give people their money's worth. I think, certainly Wemby does. So that's like what gives you hope for the league going forward. But yeah, we're coming to the end of this regular season, and I'm reflecting on it, and all the big moments in this regular season have been off the court mismanagement by the league. It feels like.
Yeah. As we wrap up here, I mentioned expansion. Seems like it's headed towards. I mean, we're just ragging on the NBA right now, and they're going to go, you know what? Here's 2 more teams to the mix. It looks like it's going to be Seattle and Las Vegas, the 2 teams.
Yeah.
I thought it is pretty cool that if Seattle gets a team, Oklahoma City is going to, hey, you guys have all the history of the Supersonics. So
yes.
Oklahoma City, their history from when they started in Oklahoma, that's their history. It won't be Seattle, part of their history being in Seattle. We don't know when it's going to happen. I saw Shams, he said something. It's a matter of when, not if at this point, though it's going to happen at some point. I mean, thoughts on expansion? I know we're talking about teams tanking and just like bad PR and everything. What's your thoughts on expansion for the NBA? 30 to 32 teams. And it seems like, at least it's being floated out, that those teams would be in the Western Conference, and maybe teams like Minnesota and Memphis would join the Eastern Conference.
If they can figure out some kind of resolution to tanking, then I'm cool with it. But right now, it just feels like you're adding 2 more teams to a league that already has a third of the league trying to lose. What should happen, Luke? Kind of like a reparations thing. Thunder should give their entire bench to the Sonics for that to be their starting 5. And that, by the way, would be a play-in team.
Yeah.
That would be McCain, A.J. Mitchell,
Kenrich
Jalen Williams.
Yep.
Jalen Williams, Kenrich Williams. That would be like a borderline play-in team. That would be an awesome way to start your franchise. And I'm also kind of just like thinking of ways to slow down the Thunder because they're just gonna be amazing for the next decade.
Sam Presti's done everything in his tenure. Let's have him navigate that. You lose your entire bench, rebuild your bench. Yeah, let's see. I bet he could do it. But no, I'd be down for that.
I would love to see expansion also just for the thought exercise of the expansion draft, where essentially what they've done in the past, what they're probably going to do again, teams get to protect like 3 or 4 of their players on their team. And then everyone else on their roster is available in the expansion draft. And so that would just be interesting to see like what kind of players those 2 teams would prioritize. Seattle deserves to have Seattle's a great sports fan base, great sports town. They root hard for their like Seahawks and like the Seattle Sounders and the Mariners and stuff. So they deserve a basketball team. And it's a major city. Vegas, I don't know. I don't know if they're like real sports fans in Vegas, but it's about the money in that sense and whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, Vegas, obviously, the Raiders, huge stadium, Allegiant Stadium. The former Oakland A's are going to be the Las Vegas A's, so they're coming.
Aces are really good, right?
Aces are good. Awesome. Aces are really good, yeah. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. Any other points before we wrap up here? Again, we close in 10 games left or about, so any other points or predictions you want to make
We
here?
might have to. We might have to change the Michael Porter Jr. quote of the week to the Lonzo Ball quote of the week. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna go through it. All I'm saying is that dude was a. Everyone going into the season was like, dude, Lonzo on the Cavs is gonna be awesome, and now we are where we are with Lonzo Ball. It's a shame.
Sad. Yeah, no, I mean, even on the buyout market, I was trying to convince myself he'd be solid on the Knicks as a
Yeah,
backup. But
yeah.
you know what? I'm not mad. You know, he's having the podcast. Yeah, if you want to go, you can go. I'm sure if you type up Lonzo Ball on Twitter, a basketball highlight's not the first thing to show up. Let's just say that you're gonna see a quote and be like, oh, okay,
That's what they're
there we
talking
go.
about.
I understand what Vincent's talking about.
I think the
Oh,
Sixers kicked around the idea of bringing him in, like in the buyout market, and they went with campaign instead. So if that's not like a devastating, and campaign's kind of been awesome for us, but that's like
I
a
love.
devastating indictment on the state of Lonzo Ball.
I always love a good campaign game. Those are some of the most fun games to watch. Campaign going crazy. It just was overshadowed by Bam the one
By
time.
Bam.
By Bam. As we wrap up here, obviously, regular season concluding. I think we. Do you think? Okay, let's do this before. Do you think New York overtakes Boston for the 2 seed?
No, I don't.
As a Knicks fan,
I don't think.
somehow
I think
I'm in
in
agreement
that
with you on
game,
that one.
you're gonna. I feel like you're gonna be decided by that game you're gonna play, and I don't think you're gonna win it. I
Yeah,
just. And a playoff series, I'll feel different, but this like regular season Celtics vibe I'm getting is really strong, and I think it'll totally change in the playoffs. But yeah,
no.
can't wait for the playoffs,
Honestly,
man.
honestly, I agree with you. I think Boston will probably hold on to that 2 seed. I believe the game's at TD Garden, so it's in Boston, that April 3rd game. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, hey, we've got what we hope is meaningful basketball coming in the NBA. It's been a rough sled stretch, whatever you want to call it. You know, we've kind of pivoted over to some March Madness because of college hoops. You know, those have been phenomenal to watch. We're hoping that the same goes for the NBA as we close up this regular season and enter into the playoffs. Hey, before we head out, again, make sure you like this video, comment below who you think the favorites are in the NBA right now. Subscribe to Backman Sports and Vincent Zakian. You can see both channels down below. Hey, that's all we got. We'll be coming back to you soon as regular season's wrapping up. We'll get ready for some play-in, playoff series, all these different previews. We're getting ready. Fun basketball's coming. Playoff basketball. Hey, playoff
March
basketball.
Madness just carry us right into the playoffs. It's a thing of beauty.
It's great. Everyone, for me, co-host Vincent Zakian here at Court Vision. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Peace. We're out.